Why do modern people need meditation? Surely, those of us who seek to practice meditation are looking for something beyond what we know in this life. We have enough wisdom to see that life does not fulfill all our desires and may never do so. This realization is a significant turning point. When we meditate, we are attempting to transform our everyday mind, the mind that deals with daily tasks, shopping in the market, raising children, working, cleaning the house, checking bills, and all such activities. No one is unfamiliar with this mind. Without it, we couldn't function in life. We need it to survive. But this ordinary mind cannot grasp the profound meaning of the Buddhist teachings, because the Buddhist teachings are deep and wondrous, while our everyday mind is not deep or wondrous, only practical. To develop a mind capable of understanding the profound meanings of Buddhism and to make them a part of us, thus changing our inner perspective, we need a mind that can detach from ordinary thought processes. Only the practice of meditation can help us achieve such a mind. There is no other way. Therefore, meditation is a means, not an end. It is a tool to transform the mind's ability to perceive realities completely different from those we usually know. Understanding that meditation is just a tool is crucial because it is often mistakenly seen as the end goal. In Pali, meditation is called bhavana, meaning mental cultivation, used to sharpen the mind until it becomes a tool that can cut through everyday realities. Many people meditate to find mental tranquility. However, tranquility samatha is only one of the two essential aspects of meditation. Insight, vipassana, is the other aspect. The purpose of meditation is to gain insight, and tranquility is just a means to that end. According to the Pali Canon, the Buddha taught 42 meditation methods. Some methods are for achieving peace of mind, while others are for gaining wisdom. However, we don't need to practice all these methods. Everyone wants to find calmness and peace, the ability to stop the mind's usual busyness. However, even though we want to achieve tranquility through meditation, most meditators find it difficult to sit down and have a calm mind right away. Paradoxically, our mind tends to do the opposite. It constantly thinks, evaluates, and dreams from morning to night, then dreams from night to morning, making it hard to find a moment of peace. If we treated our body the same way, it would soon collapse. If we worked continuously without rest, the body couldn't endure it after a few days. When we demand the mind to function this way, we are surprised when things don't go as we want, and the world doesn't follow the order we think it should. It should be more surprising if everything happened as we wanted, because what is happening in our mind is also happening in everyone's minds. This is also an important aspect of a meditative mind, knowing that we are not the only ones carrying the burden of suffering. It is a common characteristic of life, part of the first noble truth, dukkha, in Buddhism. Suffering pervades the universe. It is not unique to anyone. All sentient beings endure it. Since our mind is not tamed and the world remains the same, meditation is a struggle. Practitioners need to stop the habitual patterns of the mind. Our mind is accustomed to thinking, but when we need peace and tranquility, we must stop doing that. Easier said than done, because the mind will continue its habitual actions. Another reason why the mind is hard to control is that during meditation, thinking is the only way to assert our ego, especially when we keep silent. I think, therefore I am. Some Western philosophers have taken this as an absolute truth. In reality, it is only a relative truth, as we all know. When we think, we know we exist. When the mind is free from all thoughts, we believe we have lost control. But in fact, the truth is the opposite. When we can't stop the restless thinking, we lose control. We only control the mind when we can make it stop when we want. The difficulty most, if not all, meditators face is letting go. Letting go of the ego while meditating, or rather our thinking, is a radical attitude. When we focus on daily tasks, we actively direct our mind to what we need to do. When we want to work in the kitchen, we actively go there, focusing on what needs to be done. When we need to go to the office, we actively focus on papers, letters, and other office tasks. The same applies to meditation. The first obstacle is that, even though we want to attain concentration, to become peaceful and calm without thoughts, the mind does not listen to us. It doesn't obey because doing so feels like we have nothing to prove our existence, and because it goes against our habits. Therefore, instead of continuously striving to achieve concentration and keep the mind quiet, we need to use whatever distracting thoughts arise to illuminate our mind. Each bit of insight brings a bit of calm, and each bit of calm brings a bit of insight. The essential purpose of a quiet mind is to transform our ordinary daily mind into a transcendent mind, capable of understanding and applying the Buddhist teachings, allowing us to evolve from ordinary beings into enlightened individuals. If, during meditation, we do not achieve mental tranquility, it is not a problem, because any distracting thoughts can help us understand more about the self. This is the main goal of meditation retreats, a journey inward to help us understand ourselves better. Surely nothing is more fascinating than this, even though there are aspects of the self that we would rather run away from and not acknowledge as part of us. But how can we run away when we are meditating, causing us to start thinking about this and that? Anyone can do this, but when it happens, remember that it is just a way to escape the truth. To advance further on this spiritual journey, we need to practice noble silence. Noble silence means not talking to each other, which can be difficult when we are surrounded by friends. But consider this obstacle a challenge. Remember that these challenges are stepping stones for our progress. Noble silence is one of the most effective methods on the spiritual path. Often, we only have the opportunity to practice noble silence in intensive retreats. Usually, we chat with those around us, which is also a way to escape suffering. Everyone has tasted suffering, whatever name we give it, such as anger, fear, anxiety, dissatisfaction, sleepiness, and so on. An important thing to remember is that the first noble truth the Buddha discovered upon attaining enlightenment is suffering exists. Suffering is a characteristic of life, of existence. If we can feel this within ourselves, we have verified the Buddha's teaching as true. That's all. We don't need to relive our suffering, just observe it and say, there is evidence. There are countless things that can cause us suffering, but just remembering this first noble truth, suffering exists, and saying, yes, that is exactly what the Buddha taught. The Buddha also spoke of the second noble truth, that the origin of suffering is craving. We can look inward and ask ourselves, what do I want that I don't get? What do I get that I don't want? These are the two reasons, which are really just one, that cause us suffering. There's only one way to deal with suffering when it arises, to let go of craving. Suffering will no longer exist. This insight can only be gained when we are not outwardly focused, by talking or engaging in other activities. To truly reflect on ourselves, we need periods of silence. You may already know how to meditate. However, here, I will explain some meditation methods and the results they can bring. The most effective method is the one that brings results. If a method doesn't bring results, we need to adjust it. There is no need to cling to any one method. Each of us has different personalities and tendencies, although our minds have similar capabilities and potentials, so we need different methods. Some people prefer images. Others prefer words or stories. Some like numbers in order. Some prefer details. You may already know what kind of mind you have, or you can experiment through meditation to see which method helps your mind become calm. Mindfulness of breathing is the first basic practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness of the body, kayanapasana. Mindfulness should also be present in all other activities outside the meditation hall, something we often forget. But at least we should aim for it. It is pleasant to sit on the meditation cushion, observe the breath, and attain calmness. But if we don't increase our mindfulness practice outside meditation sessions, it will be difficult to achieve the desired results. We only have one mind, so we need to train it to be focused at all times and places. Walking, standing, opening, closing doors, every action, always paying attention to the body's activities. Observing the body includes bathing, hygiene, getting out of bed every morning, dressing, undressing, and so on. One of the easiest activities to observe is eating, as eating involves many movements. No one can teach us mindfulness. We have to train ourselves in various ways. In our tradition, Westerners, we do not have omnipotent gurus. We only have those who repeat the Buddha's teachings from the Pali scriptures, who can offer advice. Mindfulness needs to be practiced. We must train ourselves. No one can practice mindfulness for us. Only we can know when we are mindful. Mindfulness means the body and mind are in the same place. Washing dishes, know you are washing dishes, is a famous saying by Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen master. It doesn't mean thinking, I wish I were done already, or why do people use so many dishes, or luckily I won't have to wash dishes tomorrow, or why do I always have to wash dishes? None of that. Just know that you are washing dishes, that's all. Eating is the same, not, I like this dish. I wonder how they made it. Just know that you are eating. Apply this to all our actions. The Buddha said, the only way to purify, to eliminate sorrow and regret, to end all suffering, to enter the noble path, to attain nibbana, nirvana, is through mindfulness. What are we waiting for? We all have some mindfulness, we just need to develop it further. Meditation is a way to practice mindfulness until our inner self becomes strong enough to perceive the absolute truth behind relative truth. The mindfulness trained on the meditation cushion can now be applied to all our activities. Here we only talk about mindfulness of the body because bodily activities continuously occur. Since the body can be touched and seen, it is easier to bring the body and mind together in one place rather than letting the mind wander while the body does something else. If we can focus the mind and body together, it is easier to observe the breath, as only the breath is active. We are breathing in and out, nothing else. Everything else is secondary. When we watch the breath, our mind is also attached to the breath. This is true mindfulness. In Pali, it is called anapanasati, or mindfulness of in and out breathing. We will notice that our mind does not always want to stay in one place. It constantly wants to wander elsewhere. We can use this wandering to understand our inner self, not just labeling it as distraction, because that won't teach us anything. Instead, we will learn how to name it. We might say past, future, or nonsense. The latter might be most appropriate for many thoughts. We can also say desire, daydreaming, or planning. Planning is common because we often think we are not achieving anything while meditating, so we use the time to plan future tasks. Whatever label comes to mind, use it. There's no need to find an exact name, as that will lead to more thoughts. If the thoughts pass through the mind like clouds, fleeting and dissolving quickly, there is no need to chase them to name them. But if our thoughts are persistent, it is better to label them. This practice has two benefits. First, it will make the distracting thought dissipate because the mind cannot do two things at once. Naming it means we can observe the thought objectively without being led by it. Thus, the thoughts will disappear like bubbles. The second benefit of labeling is that it helps us recognize our thinking patterns and habits. This awareness is crucial because it helps meditators avoid the mistake of always believing their thoughts. Only those who have never practiced contemplation believe in their thoughts completely. When we get used to labeling our thoughts during meditation, we will realize that our thought process is often arbitrary, lacking any true meaning, and sometimes even thoughts we do not want to entertain. Gaining insight into our thoughts during meditation helps us let go of useless thoughts, making our lives less stressful. If we can let go of distracting thoughts by naming them while meditating, we can do the same in daily life. Otherwise, our meditation practice is meaningless. We are merely sitting to make our knees swell without any beneficial results. We need to apply what we achieve during meditation to our daily lives. While meditating, we let go of all distracting thoughts. When they reappear, we let them go again. Instead of thinking, we focus on the breath. In daily life, we practice letting go of unwholesome thoughts and replacing them with wholesome ones. The transformation process is the same. When we train like this in meditation, it becomes a good habit in life. We won't always succeed, nothing is absolute, but at least we know it's possible. When we listen to the Buddhist teachings, we understand that the Buddha presents ideals for us to follow. Therefore, if we haven't achieved those ideals, we shouldn't blame ourselves. Recognize, do not blame, then transform is an important motto to remember. It means we acknowledge what is happening within us, but not to blame ourselves or others. Things are as they are, but as thinking beings, we can change, and that's what we strive to do in meditation. We can let go of distracting thoughts and return to observing the breath. The more we practice this, the easier and more natural it becomes for us. Gradually, our mind will comply. It will say, all right, I will stop thinking for a moment. This action becomes easier not only because it has become a habit, but because we are more determined to let go of idle thoughts, knowing they are useless. They bring no results, only distractions. Therefore, the mind recognizes the value of staying focused on the meditation object. If we can maintain mindfulness of the breath during meditation, it will be easier to keep mindfulness in daily life. One supports the other. There can't be two different people within us. We train just one mind. Clearly, we spend more time on daily activities than on sitting meditation. Therefore, we cannot abandon our training when we step out of the meditation hall. There are 5 ways to observe the breath. The most traditional, also the hardest, and the most likely to bring tranquility, is focusing on the breath at the nose. Traditionally, we watch the breath both when it comes in and when it goes out because we don't want the mind to wander back into its familiar paths. We want to keep it always on the breath. The breath at the nose as we inhale gives us a sensation to focus on. This is the clearest way to focus on the breath at one point and is often used by experienced meditators. One point means focusing on a single spot, a characteristic of meditation. Since the focus is on one point, it helps the mind become sharp, not scattered. We can use additional supportive methods to keep the mind mindful of the breath. Counting the breath is one method. We count 1 when inhaling, 1 when exhaling, then 2 when inhaling, 2 when exhaling, up to 10. When the mind wanders, we start counting from 1 again, regardless of whether we were at 5, 6, or 8. This method suits those who like numbers and an organized approach. For those who don't like counting, they can think calm when inhaling, calm when exhaling. Of course, any other word can be used. One can use calm when inhaling and compassion when exhaling, bringing calm in and sending out love. However, it is better to use one word, as the more we load into the mind, the harder it is for it to become calm. If we can keep our focus on calm when inhaling to fill ourselves with calm, and exhale calm. This method is suitable for those who like to use words. If one doesn't like numbers or words, they can use images. Imagine a cloud entering when inhaling and leaving when exhaling, enveloping us. Some people visualize a small cloud coming in and a larger cloud going out. Any supportive method that helps focus is better than random thoughts. Using images doesn't focus on one point as watching the breath does, but it's better than letting the mind wander to what happened last week or what might happen next week. For beginners, another useful method is to follow the breath in and feel where it goes, through the nostrils, up the nose, down the throat, into the lungs and into the belly, then follow it as it leaves the body. We don't need to seek out the sensations created by the breath, but simply place our focus on every point it reaches when inhaling or exhaling. This method is particularly useful for those who are attentive to sensations. The internal sensations connected to the breath make the mind alert, easily focusing inwardly. This method prevents the mind from clinging to what is happening internally and reacting accordingly. The last method to observe what happens with the breath is to know when the breath is fully inside us and when it is fully expelled. This is also a useful method for focusing. We have discussed 5 methods of using the breath during meditation. However, only use one method at a time. Choose whichever method feels most comfortable for you when meditating. If that method does not help you focus, use another method in the next session. Don't switch methods during a single meditation session. If our mind keeps wandering, consider the impermanence of each breath. The ordinary mind likes to think about various things, so at least direct it toward more beneficial thoughts. Not just any topic the mind likes, but observing how each breath comes and goes, always changing, and how our lives depend on this continuous in and out breathing. Without continuous in and out breaths, we would not survive. If we cling to just the in-breath or out-breath for a few minutes, we would die. This essential inner knowledge helps us connect the mind to the impermanent nature of every human being, especially ourselves. If the mind has been trained to follow the breath, then keep it there. But if the mind keeps wandering, direct it towards the impermanence of the breath. This focus helps us think. If our life relies on in and out breathing, what else within us comes and goes? This reflection will guide the mind inward and make it easier to settle on the breath. All of us desire moments of peace and tranquility, and we deserve such moments. Otherwise, meditation would become a monotonous chore rather than something enjoyable. However, we need spiritual guidance, especially for Westerners. From kindergarten, we are trained to study, research, and think. Having been conditioned this way, we continue to act accordingly, and it is very difficult to get our minds to stop as we wish. Thus, we need to try any method that can help us meditate. Contemplating the impermanence of the breath brings many benefits to our inner self, far better than thinking about the past or the future. Being able to stay with the breath means being mindful in the present moment. It sounds strange, but without training, it's hard to achieve. We can only live in each moment, yet we constantly think about the past, which is gone, or worry about the future, which is merely our hopes and dreams. When the future arrives, it becomes the present. We never live in the future. It is just a concept. If we want to gain wisdom, we need to experience life, and to do so, we need to be present in the moment. The more we train our minds to live in the present moment, the better we understand human life. Otherwise, we only live in memories or aspirations. Being present in the moment means being present with each breath. We cannot grasp a past breath or a future breath. We can only observe the breath happening right now. This is crucial in helping us understand how the mind works. The Buddha didn't want us to believe his teachings without thinking or questioning. The Buddhist teachings are just guides, signposts, milestones for us to follow on our journey. A proper sitting posture is with a straight back, but relaxed, not rigid. Relax the shoulders by shrugging them up, and then gently lowering them. Relax the abdomen, which is also tense, and relax the neck. Sit in a position that you can maintain for some time. Hands can rest on the knees, palms up or down, or in the lap, one hand on top of the other. Eyes should be slightly closed. If feeling sleepy, open your eyes and look at something bright, or move your body slightly to help blood circulation, then close your eyes again. Pain and discomfort can be seen as ways to gain wisdom. Pain and discomfort teach us two important lessons. When physical pain arises, our first reaction is, I don't want to endure this discomfort. This is how we react in life, and it's why we remain stuck in the cycle of birth and death, samsara. We want to escape discomfort but cling to pleasant feelings, which is impossible. In this struggle, no one wins. The sooner we realize that this is not the wise way to face suffering, the easier it will be to deal with discomfort in daily life. We need to recognize that the pain arising in the body during meditation to some extent is similar. When the knee touches the cushion or the left foot rests on the thigh, wherever there is pain, there is contact. All sensory contact brings feelings. Enlightened beings also experience one of three feelings: suffering, pleasure, or neutral, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. However, we often consider neutral feelings as pleasant because they don't bring discomfort. Thus, we mostly deal with pleasant or unpleasant feelings. Almost every waking moment, we are concerned with these. Due to contact, feelings arise, leading to perceptions that this hurts or this is not good. For example, upon perceiving pain, the mind immediately reacts instinctively, creating karma. I don't like this. I want to stop the pain. I need to move. This is dangerous. My blood isn't circulating, or thoughts like these. Mental formations, sankhara, are also karmic formations. Karma arises first from intention, then speech, and finally action. When we intend, we partly create bad karma through negative thoughts arising in the mind. However, this is not serious because these intentions arise from uncontrolled instinctive tendencies of beings. But if we want to transform them, like the ordinary mind, we must transform instinctive reactions. We can think, this is an unpleasant, painful feeling, but I did not expect it, so why should I consider it part of myself? It is merely an arising phenomenon, isn't it? Here we train the mind to be non-attached, letting go of unpleasant feelings and returning to the meditation object. Anyone can do this for a limited time. How limited depends on the individual. When another discomfort arises, we repeat the above thought process. We also need to recognize that the body always has suffering. If we don't accept this truth, we will suffer more. Not resisting suffering, not wishing for change, we avoid creating additional tension and distress. However, at some point, when the mind says, enough, I can't endure this pain any longer, We will gently, slowly shift our position to avoid disturbing others meditating nearby or making ourselves restless with the thought that we have given in to the pain. That's okay. We often have to yield to our feelings, but here, at least we recognize them. We know we yield because of discomfort. Conversely, if we can let pain be just a sensation without reacting, we have won over ourselves. This is significant inner progress. There is no benefit in sitting there gritting our teeth thinking, I will continue sitting even if I die, or I will show everyone that I can endure. This attitude is full of anger, not wisdom. In life, we have all experienced suffering, dukkha, but now recognizing our reactions to it will help our inner progress. This is a useful way to deal with physical pain. Another method to deal with unpleasant feelings is to use them as an object of contemplation, keeping them in the mind. This approach only works if we don't resent those feelings. Otherwise, the mind will immediately react. Persistently focusing on unpleasant feelings will help us see their changing nature. It is possible that the pain will completely disappear. In summary, we can either return to mindfulness on the breath by letting go of feelings, or use the feelings as a meditation object. Sometimes we might succumb to them. If the weather permits, we can do walking meditation outside. Walking meditation also brings many benefits. First, it helps the body move after sitting meditation. It also helps the mind maintain mindfulness during an activity we do daily. We walk many times in our lives, so if we can focus and be mindful during walking meditation, it will be easier to apply this mindfulness in our daily activities. Basic walking meditation is similar to sitting meditation, keeping the mind on the in and out breath. It helps the mind stay on physical movements, the body. When sitting, we focus on the movement of the breath. In walking meditation, we focus on the movement of the feet. Both methods help us find peace and clarity in the mind. Choose a path, maybe about 25 steps long. Mark it with a stone, a bush, or anything. Avoid bumping into others, as it will disturb both. Walk parallel to others, or find a spot without anyone. Look down, because looking around distracts us with the scenery, noticing trees, grass, birds, and flowers more than our steps. We can focus on 3 movements or 6 movements of the foot. 3 movements include lifting the foot, moving it forward, and placing it down. Only when one foot is fully down does the other foot start to lift, making our steps slower than usual, ensuring we don't perform 2 actions at once. Normally, when one foot touches the ground, the other is already lifting. The length of the step varies with each person, whatever is comfortable. In the 3-movement process, we can pay attention to each movement or silently count 1, 2, 3 while observing each action. Or we can say, lift, move, place to help focus. If the mind starts to wander, stop and stand still for a moment. Again, naming thoughts is helpful. If thinking becomes too scattered, standing still also helps the mind let go of those thoughts. It doesn't matter how many times we stop. There is no judgment here. There is only awareness. No judgment of oneself or others. Simply recognizing what is happening within us. Mindfulness is just knowing, awareness. So if we know what is happening, we can name our thoughts as we did while sitting or standing still to help regain focus. We can also use the movement of 6 actions. First, lift the heel, then the entire foot, lift the leg, move it forward, then place the heel and the foot down. Following these multiple actions requires more attention. We can count from 1 to 6 or say heel, foot, lift, move, heel, foot to aid our focus. Or, if you prefer imagery, you can imagine that when lifting the foot, a flower bud opens. When moving the foot forward, the flower blooms. And when placing the foot down, the flower closes. Everyone knows that the ground never reacts when we step on it or soil it. The earth always patiently endures. This is a quality we need to develop internally. Whatever we do, place our foot down heavily or lightly, the ground does not resist. When we walk on the grass, we see the grass bowing under our steps. When we lift our foot, the grass returns to its normal state. This quality is likened by the Buddha to bamboo, bending before the storms of suffering, dukkha, but never breaking. These are the mental anchors to help us focus on meditation objects rather than random thoughts. Observing sensations is another supportive means to focus on movements. When the foot touches down, we feel the contact with a solid surface. When lifting the foot, the sensation becomes light. When moving the foot forward, we sense movement through the resistance of the air, and when placing the foot down, we feel solidity again. These sensations are very helpful in keeping our attention on the movements, preventing mechanical, inattentive actions. This is not mindfulness. We can also use the three movements as mental anchors. Just as we can perceive that the breath always changes, thus sustaining our life, so it is with the movements of the feet, always changing, continuously. We can only use our body because of this inherent characteristic of constant change, clearly illustrating one of the three characteristics of all existence, impermanence. This awareness leads to insight, while continuously focusing on the meditation object helps stabilize the mind. Both need to be practiced in parallel. The power of meditation. We must understand that meditation in general is merely a means to reach the final goal, not an end in itself. This is even more true for the jhana states of meditation. During the Buddha's time, meditation was already prevalent in India. However, the Buddha's significant contribution was his realization that meditation alone was not sufficient. At that time, as well as now, many believed that achieving the 8 jhana states meant the completion of their spiritual practice, considering themselves enlightened beings. The Buddha himself mastered these jhana states during his 6 years of study with his 2 teachers. Yet he realized that he had not reached the ultimate goal and could not find a teacher to guide him to enlightenment. It is said that all Buddhas attain enlightenment on their own, using similar means. It is crucial not to mistake the attainment of a calm and serene mind as unnecessary, because enlightenment is the ultimate goal. This is a common misconception, not based on the Buddha's teachings. Throughout the sutras, the Buddha emphasizes the gradual practice from a polluted state to nirvana. The jhana states are part of this path, necessary tools to achieve the goal, as they help the mind concentrate and stay focused. Without this mental strength, the mind cannot grasp the profound, lofty teachings of the Buddha, where the ultimate, absolute truth can be found. Without this strength, the mind cannot overcome the obstacles of distractions, merely chasing after one thought after another. An unsettled mind can only achieve superficial understanding, gradually becoming more focused. Another aspect of the effectiveness of the jhana states can be seen from the beginning of their practice. The first jhana has 5 factors or characteristics to counteract 5 hindrances naturally. Once we reach this jhana state, we are equipped with a purification system that supports us in daily life, motivating our meditation practice. The 5 hindrances mentioned by the Buddha are obstacles for all beings. None of us are exempt, and we can only eliminate them step by step. The first meditation factor can occur in any meditation session, whether achieving jhana or not. In Pali, it is called vitakka, which means initial application or directing the mind to the meditation object. Whether successful or not, vitakka arises whenever we attempt to meditate. This mental factor counters the third hindrance, sloth and torpor. When hindered by sloth, the mind becomes sluggish and not alert enough to focus on the meditation object. The more we can focus on the meditation object, the easier it is to counteract sloth. A mind lacking clarity also causes physical lethargy. Here we discuss the mind's sluggishness during meditation. The mind says, "I'll practice later, I'll meditate tomorrow. It's not that important. I'm tired today. I don't want to be disturbed. I don't know if it's useful," finding every excuse to avoid meditation. The mind easily falls into habits, which are hard to break. Developing new habits is necessary to motivate us, but not too harshly or leniently. Balance is crucial, and only we know where our balance lies. If vitakka does not lead to vikara, the mind becomes restless. This often happens in meditation when the mind is not truly settled and lacks a stable focus. The initial arising of the mind must be followed by the second meditation factor, called vikara in Pali. These first 2 factors are always mentioned together because meditation is only achieved with both. Vikara means sustained application, indicating the mind remains focused on the meditation object, maintaining concentration. Everyone knows meditation is effective only when the mind can stay focused, but not everyone knows the hindrances that arise. The second meditation factor, vikara, or sustained application, counters doubt. When we can stay focused without distraction, we become more confident because we know it is achievable. We can do it. and the results align with the Buddhist teachings. Without this, doubt reappears, constantly hindering us. Doubt is the enemy of self-confidence and faith, thus also an enemy of our practice. The mind finds various reasons, thoughts, and doubts. Maybe there's an easier way. I should try another method. I need a better teacher, a better monastery. The mind is a magician, pulling rabbits out of any hat. Doubt arises when we cannot fully accept our current situation. Doubt hinders us because we fear losing control or face. When we experience some results from the Buddha's teachings, doubt can be countered, but not entirely eliminated. At least we no longer feel confused about our meditation practice. We have experienced results and realized it doesn't matter where we practice as long as we remain persistent. This is crucial, as we could spend our lives searching for the perfect teacher, place, or time and never find it due to doubt. Vitakka and Vikara are the first two meditation factors of the first jhana, considered the doorway to concentration, samadhi. All meditation methods are merely keys. No key is good or bad. If we hold a key long enough and firmly, we can gradually insert it into the lock. Unlocking the lock opens the door, leading us into a house with 8 rooms. Entering the threshold with the power of the first 2 factors, we can enter the first room. With continued practice, we no longer need the key, as the door remains open. Achieving the jhana states opens the mind, making it flexible, pliable, and easy to develop. However, if we stop and do not continue practicing, the mind reverts to its old limited state. This can be compared to yoga practice. Persistent stretching makes touching toes easy because the muscles and ligaments become flexible. If we stop practicing for 6 months or more, we must start again, as the muscles have become stiff again. Expanding the mind, making it flexible, pliable, and open, is essential for comprehending all teachings. When the mind is limited and narrow, although we can still live and overcome difficulties, we can only understand the Dharma through our limited perspective. This is natural. The Buddha's path always includes learning and practice. We must know the direction, but we must also practice to achieve an open mind. Only through practice can we gain an inner vision of a reality entirely different from the one we are accustomed to. The third factor of the first jhana, which arises after treading, is called piti in Pali, translated as rapture in English. It is a profound physical sensation that often surprises meditators, as they do not know how to react to it. The development of meditation in this direction is entirely natural. Our mind always seeks freedom from distractions and desires peace and tranquility, which is often the reason we begin to meditate. Generally, is there any other reason? Almost never, apart from wanting to escape past issues, avoid future worries, or replace present concerns with peace and serenity. The mind not only wishes for this, but recognizes it as the path it must follow. All minds have the potential to achieve complete peace and tranquility. The issue lies in application and determination. If we can practice with persistence, there is no reason we cannot follow this path. It is a natural progression for the mind of all beings. The sensation of rapture is a physical experience, but at that moment, our attention is not on the body as we think, but on the sensation. What actually happens during meditation is this. When the meditator has focused on the breath and maintained concentration, the nature of the breath also changes. It becomes increasingly subtle because the mind is concentrated at one point, controlled from within. It no longer chases external distractions, only focusing on the breath. Eventually, the breath seems to disappear, becoming so subtle that the mind can barely find it, or even better, cannot find it at all. At that moment, initial and sustained application, vitakka and vikara, have ended, allowing rapture to follow. There are 17 types of rapture listed, each differing and potentially varying with each meditation session. Some cause a feeling of lightness in the body, as if it has no weight. This sensation can be so strong that a meditator experiencing it for the first time might think they are levitating above the meditation cushion. Sometimes it is a gentle vibration throughout the body, extremely pleasant, or a sense that the body is growing larger or disappearing entirely. Whatever the sensation, it is always very pleasant and can effectively counteract defilements. When we experience such pleasant sensations and can maintain them, not just fleeting, and recover them at will, it naturally fills our heart with goodwill. How can we harbor ill will towards anyone or anything when our heart is full of rapture? This is a crucial aspect of accessing the jhana states. Regardless of what happens in daily life, independent of external circumstances, the mind knows it can achieve rapture, which the Buddha described as, "This is the pleasure I can have." He compared it to other sensual pleasures, which he considered coarse and dependent on external conditions. When our pleasure depends on sensory contact, we become victims of external conditions. Here, perhaps for the first time, we control our own situation. We no longer depend on external conditions. All we need is the condition of internal concentration. Though still within the realm of conditionality, we become somewhat independent of what happens around us. Although defilements may still arise within us, we know we can return to a place the mind considers home. This can be compared to having a house to shelter us. Without a roof over our heads, a bed to sleep in, a place to protect us from rain, wind, storms, snow, or sun, living and sleeping on the streets would be very uncomfortable. Similarly, the mind without such a home suffers during emotional storms. The body may sit comfortably in a soft chair, but the mind may be overwhelmed by severe problems. Without a roof to shelter it from its own emotional storms, the mind lacks a sanctuary. Its only wish might be to sleep, hoping to escape its issues and dreams. When we can access the jhana states, the mind finds a home where it can safely retreat during meditation, away from emotional storms. Over time, these emotions will be purified as rapture reduces defilements like anger, jealousy, resentment, and opposition. Whatever name we give them, all beings suffer from these emotions. The Buddha compared anger to holding hot coals to throw at an enemy. Who gets burned first? Of course, the person holding the hot coals, the one who is angry. And we might not even hit the opponent, as they could dodge, but we are certainly burned. The Buddha also taught that controlling one's anger signifies true practice, like a charioteer reining in wild horses, guiding them back to their duties, becoming a true charioteer. Negative emotions will automatically dissipate due to the tranquility brought by initial and sustained application. Negative reactions to external influences no longer overwhelm us as they used to. While we still face them in daily life, they no longer pose significant problems. Another benefit of concentration is compassion. Naturally, we want to help others achieve states of rapture, making their inner lives peaceful and harmonious. We all know how to clean and tidy our homes to avoid living in chaos, but we also need to clean and tidy our inner home. A mind filled with contradictions and negative reactions is hard to live with, just as living in a disordered house is difficult. When we can resolve our issues, life becomes more pleasant. This does not mean we are free from suffering, dukkha. As long as there is a self, there is suffering, but a peaceful mind is much easier to meditate with. A pleasant sensation often leads to rapture, countering the fourth hindrance of restlessness and worry. If we feel truly happy at this moment, we cannot simultaneously feel anxious or worry about the future. A significant outcome of this meditative state is that we no longer seek happiness outside, realizing that happiness depends on our efforts. Worrying about the future is futile, as the person worrying will change and not be the same person facing the future. Even a little contemplation of impermanence makes this clear. Continuity can disguise the impermanent nature of all phenomena, but it cannot change this truth. We always mistakenly believe we are fixed entities. Restlessness ceases because once we find happiness called rapture, we no longer seek anything else, eliminating restlessness and worry. Where can we find anything better? When happiness is within reach, we are not restless wherever we are, as we are not yet satisfied. But when we find inner happiness, it no longer matters where we are. The peace brought by initial pleasant sensations removes restlessness during meditation. However, this does not mean the hindrances are eradicated. They are only temporarily absent during meditation. We can view this as follows. If we have a garden full of weeds and let them grow unchecked, they consume all the nutrients in the soil, overshadowing and depriving other plants of sunlight and water. If the weed roots are deeply embedded, as many weeds are, we cannot uproot them entirely, but can cut them down. After being cut, they weaken, no longer depleting soil nutrients or overshadowing beneficial plants. This is what happens in meditation. We cannot uproot the hindrances, but we can cut them down. By repeatedly cutting them down, they weaken and shrink until uprooting them becomes manageable. However, this requires daily practice. As all gardeners know, weeds grow more easily than flowers or vegetables, and constant vigilance is essential, whether in a real garden or our mental garden. The fifth factor of the first jhana is one-pointedness. With one-pointedness, we can maintain concentration. One-pointedness counters our desire for sensual pleasures. Fortunately, the mind cannot do two things at once. When we are completely focused, entirely at ease and rapture, we no longer desire anything else. Even physical pain becomes irrelevant, as it is not the focus of attention, and the meditator does not seek more comfort. We do not seek other pleasant sensations through the senses because we are experiencing an unprecedented inner peace. The first four jhana states, including the first jhana I described, are called fine material absorptions, rupa jhana. Rupa means form, physical phenomena. In English, they are called fine material absorptions because all arising phenomena are familiar to us but much subtler. Whether in quantity or quality, it is part of our experience. We all know physical sensations of pleasure. The sensations arising in meditation, though higher, are both familiar and unfamiliar. When these feelings appear for the first time, many people weep with joy. However, the mind might also say, "What is this?" disrupting concentration and making them start over. When our breath becomes so subtle that it seems to disappear, pleasant bodily sensations continue, and the mind focuses on that. When this sensation changes because we lose concentration or exit meditation, there are two things to remember before opening our eyes. We have experienced impermanence, even with the most pleasant feelings. We do not object to experiencing the impermanence of unpleasant sensations, but we regret the passing of pleasant ones. Yet both are impermanent. As we progress, we see that recognizing and observing the decay of these pleasant feelings is crucial. Observing the decay of a meditative experience brings us closer to wisdom. First, we notice the arising and passing away. Now, during meditation, we can observe the decay. At that moment, the decay does not cause discomfort or suffering because the mind is still full of pleasant sensations from meditation. However, the initial reaction might be, "What a pity, I wish I could regain that feeling." When the mind reacts this way, we must recognize it as a sign of attachment. We need to observe the decay of this pleasant feeling, understanding that a natural law unfolds before our inner vision. The second important point is summary and reflection. We need to review the stages we went through during that meditation session to consistently practice this particular meditation method. Each person will find specific factors that work for them, although the meditation processes are the same for all minds. The meditator should examine if any actions or thoughts differed in this session, even before entering the meditation hall. Was the sitting posture different, or the meditation method? Gradually, the meditator will identify specific factors to consistently enter the first room of the meditation house, simply by sitting in the meditation posture. The mind forms habits. If it has done something long enough, it will continue unless we intentionally change its course. Initially, we need a basic meditation method, those that act as keys to open the door, and then choose the one that is particularly effective for us. It might be a physical or mental condition related to posture or thoughts. We need faith in ourselves, the teachings, and our teacher. Meditators who listen carefully and follow instructions usually achieve excellent results. Comparing and a wandering mind are unhelpful. What we need is trust, like eager children learning. To meditate well, our mind and body must be comfortable. One prerequisite for a comfortable mind is rapture. When we sit on the meditation cushion, we must genuinely want to become calm, peaceful, and not tense. Tension in the body affects the mind's openness. Although concentration may not last long, we must use whatever arises to gain insight, as deeper insight brings more peace. The ability to achieve one-pointedness surpasses all other mental abilities. We can build rockets to the moon, but we still suffer. The ability to focus, achieving one-pointedness, brings inner peace, unaffected by external factors. In meditation, self-mastery arises from inner happiness. An unhappy person cannot endure inside and seeks external stimulation.